Everybody has their favorite pick in For Honor, and recently I made a video about the best hero from each faction in For Honor. This time we're taking a look at the worst heroes from each faction in For Honor. Now, I know everybody is divided on this. Everybody has their favorite hero to play. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. So when I say a hero's bad, don't think of the hero as actually being bad. Just think of it as playing For Honor on a harder difficulty, because even a bad character can still get the job done at the end of the day, but you're going to struggle a lot more using these heroes. And first up, we have the Knights faction. Who's the worst in the Knights faction? And I hate to say it, I love this hero, but it has to be Conquer. Conquer's kit right now is just not where it needs to be. So when taking a closer look at Conquer's moveset, he has a pretty decent kit, don't get me wrong, but there's a couple things that I wish they would change just to make him more effective. For example, these light attacks, it's nice to have an infinite chain, but you're not going to be really landing on these light attacks on your opponent. They're going to get blocked. And I know you can mix them in with different attacks, but it's just not something that I think is comparable to some of the other heroes. And I just think the way his playstyle is made, he needs to have something different. Also, the heavies are nice. You know, just like any other heavy, you throw a second one, it's going to be unblockable. You can charge this up and then let it go, and then even follow up with a bash after that. Things like that is really nice, and I think if they do make any changes to Conquer, they should keep that concept, but add something different. He really needs something else to keep up with everybody else in the game, in my opinion. He has a feat called Punch Through. This is a passive. Your block damage is increased. This is kind of counterproductive because a part of his moveset allows him to throw infinite unblockables. Those aren't going to get blocked anyways. They're either going to get dodged or parried, so that really isn't that effective when it comes to his kit. And you may say, well, why does that matter? Well, it's because a lot of other heroes in this game have feats that accommodate their moveset, and Conqueror to date just still feels like he has a whole bunch of feats that were thrown in. They're left over from the early stages of For Honor, and they really haven't done anything with him. If there was one hero that needed a rework, this is the hero in the Knight faction that needs it the most. Next, who's the worst in the Vikings faction? So I had to do some thinking for this faction because there have been some changes that was made. For example, Shaman, she has a lot more externals now. She's a lot more effective in 4v4 modes because of that. And in the previous testing ground, Berserker had some changes that was made to him. Don't know if those changes are going to land or not, but they're potentially thinking about changing Berserker as well. So in the future, you got to consider some of these heroes will change. But as of now, in my personal opinion, I think the worst hero in the Vikings faction has to be, a lot of people aren't going to like this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think it has to be Raider. When it comes to all around 1v1s and 4v4s, I think Raider struggles the most. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some insane Raiders out there, and he can be really good at times. But I think things like his light attacks and then his stun tap, I think these are moves that are kind of predictable at this point, and they're really easy to parry. And his only unblockable he has is his own, which has two different versions. You can actually just throw it out like this for 24 damage, or if you throw an attack and then end the chain with it, you can do a total of 30 damage, which is a lot of damage. And it's really nice when you swap targets in the middle of a fight and then land this 30 damage on somebody else. Really nice, but it's really predictable. And I'm not saying this move right here isn't good. I'm just saying he needs a few more changes to make him more effective as a hero in For Honor. Because this is nice, all these combos are nice, but I think at this point, the way his moveset is set up, it doesn't allow him to hold his own against a lot of the newer heroes. I just think if the developers would make a couple changes to him, he could be really good, but at this point, I don't think he's the best to compete with. Next, we have the Samurai faction. Now, who's the worst in the Samurai faction? And that's going to be Kensei. Just kidding, it's not Kensei. I definitely wouldn't pick Kensei for this. Not gonna lie, this one's gonna be a really hard pick, but I'm gonna have to go with Orochi. A lot of people aren't gonna like that because a lot of people play Orochi, but I'm gonna say he isn't the best when it comes to 4v4 modes, and I think he's pretty easy to counter when it comes to 1v1 modes as well. I will say I've seen some of the best players in For Honor play Orochi, but at this point in time, I don't think he can really compete as well as some of the other heroes. Going back to what I said earlier in the video, don't think of these heroes as being bad. They're just more difficult to play, so if you wanna play For Honor in hard mode, play Orochi because he doesn't really compete as well as some of the other heroes. And honestly, if you look at his description, it does say he is hard. I normally don't go by the difficulty because some heroes that are labeled hard are honestly easy in my opinion. I have been playing him for a long time, but even for a new player, I think some of those heroes will be considered easy. But Orochi, honestly, I don't even know why he's considered hard because his moveset isn't that complicated. It's the fact that what he has compared to everybody else makes him hard to play, in my opinion, not his actual moveset himself. Some of the standout moves he has is the Storm Rush. You can actually just dodge back, go into your opponent. This right here is already going to get parried by somebody that's on their ship. And also, you have your little step back to the light attack. That's going to be parried if you don't really pick and choose when to do this attack. You also got a kick that guarantees a light attack, which is nice, and you can guarantee some damage, but this can also get dodged as well. And then he has a zone that really doesn't work well as a zone. I feel like the range or something should be better on this, or make this undodgeable or something. They just need to add something new to Orochi at this point to make him better compete, in my opinion. And Orochi just doesn't have what he needs to compete with some of these other heroes, especially in 4v4 modes. Duels, he may stand a chance, but I don't think he can compete with everybody else. Next, we have the worst hero in the Wulin faction. And you already know who I'm going to pick. It's Nusha. Nusha is the worst. We all know this, and it's because of her moveset. In my opinion, when it comes to Nusha's moveset, I think she's a worse peacekeeper. Then again, she has some moves that are pretty decent. She has the traps and things like that, which is really nice. But overall, I think her moveset really isn't that effective. But something that I will say I really like about her is if you land the third heavy on your opponent, you can actually get a wall splat. So you can actually pull him, get the wall splat, and then land some more damage. That's pretty nice. But overall, I just don't think she has what she needs to compete. I mean, she's always been low on the tier list, and it's because of her moveset. They just need to make some essential changes to make her compete. And some of her feats are pretty decent. They're not lifesavers though. For example, her fourth feat's Corruption. Corrupts your target. Corruption deals damage to a target and their allies only if they stay close together. So she has an off-brand Warmonger feat. Why don't she have her own unique feat? I don't know. I wish they would make some changes so she would, but she doesn't need a fourth feat that's the same as another hero's. She needs to be unique altogether. Her moveset and her feats aren't the greatest anyways, so honestly, I think they should completely remake this hero. They can keep her base moveset and things like that, and maybe even keep the trap, but make some changes to her feats at least, and also just give her something extra on top of her moveset. I really want to use this hero, but I don't like using her just because I know there's so many heroes that are better than this hero, and when I lose with this hero, I'm thinking like, what if I was playing Warden? What if I was playing Centurion? I don't know. What if I was playing Kyoshin? I just want Nusha to be better. I like her overall style, but it's just not effective enough for me. And lastly, we have the Outlanders. Who's the worst in the Outlanders faction? Well, I gotta say, it's probably gonna be Meji. Meji is a very good hero in my opinion, but I just don't think he competes with everybody else. But I will say Meji has some pretty decent feats. If you look at his first feat, after a kill, you gain either damage reduction or attack buff depending on which weapon you're using. So depending on which style you're in, that will determine what effect you're gonna have. So for the second feat, if you have your staff out, you lower your opponent's defense, but if you have the axes out, you'll lower your opponent's attack. And same with the third feat. You heal yourself and nearby allies, or you can heal yourself greatly. And then lastly, if you have your staff out, you can throw a bomb for damage over an area, or if you have your axes out, you can throw axes for high damage. This is pretty interesting, and I actually really like this about Meji, but when it comes to his moveset, it's really not as effective as you would think. So don't get me wrong, once you get going with Meji, he's actually pretty intense. But as you can see, I'm throwing a light attack, then I'm doing the zone, and I can infinitely do this, and every time I do this, I'm swapping attacks. And in between these, I can do two different types of bashes. I can do a little grab, or if I swap to the axes, I can do a bash and then do some more and even end with an unblockable heavy. As you can see, if I end that, that's gonna be an unblockable heavy. But if I hold down and then press guard break, I'll swap back into staff mode. And if I do the same move with the staff out, it'll just be a hyper armored attack. This is actually really nice and it's super effective. But the downside to Meji is I find myself being able to parry this hero very easy. A lot of his attacks are very easy to parry. And if you honestly just catch on to his moveset, these long drawn out attacks will get kind of predictable in my opinion. Even when he's in axe mode, his light attacks are pretty easy to parry in my opinion. And his overall moveset, if you actually catch on to it, it can get quite predictable in my opinion. But if you're a newer player and you really haven't seen this hero before and you don't know his moveset, he can be very difficult to go against. In my opinion, I would say this is a hero that's harder to do good with at higher levels, but that's my personal opinion. You may think different, but honestly, I don't think Meji needs a lot of changes, just a few tweaks here and there, and I think he would be great. But overall, not too bad, but I do think he's the worst in the Outlanders faction. That's gonna be it for the video. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that like button down below. Let me know who you think is the worst hero from each faction. We always talk about the greats, but who are the ones that need the changes the most? Let me know down below. With all that being said, I hope to see you in the next video.